All right, welcome to this Q&A, and welcome to this Q&A. There was a question last week that I did answer, but I want to actually follow up with something else with that. And there was a question about miracles. Spoke about miracles. Anybody even hearing the Bosco heavenly voice? But as the question was, let's say better. The question was why we're instructed to dismiss the heavenly voice and follow the rabbi. So that we answered. That we answered pretty much. So you have to go with what we said over there. But one thing that I do want to hit from this, and that is it's common misconception. Usually comes from people coming out of Christianity or even maybe secular Jews also, and that is that people will say that why do I have to listen to rabbis in general, right? In other words, why do we need oral law? What is the purpose of oral law? And why can't we just read the Torah and do what it says? Right. So whatever, it's a common question. I would say, if that people have been lied to, by the church and other so-called religions, I can say, well, they lied to us. Why should we listen to the rabbis? Why listen to them? We only want to listen. We only want to listen to God, what God says. Very good. Right. Very good. So the question is, okay, why do we need oral law? That's going to go hand in hand. And why can't we just read the Torah and do what it says? So very simply, the answer is that if you look at the Torah scroll, and this is also, by the way, that you have even Messianics, will say we never listen to the rabbis, right? And we're going to see why that cannot be true. We'll see in a second. But the written Torah itself, you look at the Torah scroll, anyone's ever seen a Torah scroll or seen one online, whatever, it doesn't really matter. You look at the Torah scroll, it's got no vowels, right? It's in Hebrew, both the consonants. So obvious question is, how do we know what the Torah says? How do we know what the Torah says? You say, of course, they're vowels, right? They're vowels, right? The vowels allow us to be able to know what the word is and what the word says. So for the Christians also, for any of their translations, for their thousands of translations, how do they translate it? How did King James translate it? It's got no vowels, right? So they always obviously have to hold, according to the rabbis, who put the vowels in, right? The Masoretic text has vowels. Right, the old Masoretic text has vowels. So if there are vowels in it, the rabbis put it in. So if a Messianic would say, we pick and choose what we want to listen to what the rabbis say, good, right? I wouldn't have an issue. But see, when they make a statement and they say, we never listen to the rabbis, well, never listen, to oral tradition, that's a lie. That's a lie because of that, exactly this. They would have no translation because most of them can't read Hebrew anyway. So they wouldn't know what the words mean. And even if they could read Hebrew and they understood Hebrew, how are they going to know what the words mean? There are no vowels. There are no vowels. So the vowels had to be put in. Very good. Now they were developed later, right? They were developed later. The rabbis put them in. So how do you know how to read Torah? So very good. So we'll give an example, right? We'll give an example. The word chet lamed beis. The word chet lamed beis could either be, the vowels could be either two dots underneath, right? The consonants, you get chelef, or it would be chalav, right? You'd have, let's say, a T, like a small T underneath the chet in the lamed, right? So either it's going to be chelef with the vowels, or it's going to be chalav. Now you're going to say, so what? Who cares? Right? What relevance? What relevance does it have? So the Torah says, Kol chet lamed beis lo tochelu. Right? All whatever chet lamed beis is, you're not allowed to eat. Now, what is that chet lamed beis? Does that mean all milk you're not allowed to eat? Or does it meaning any dairy foods? Or does it mean forbidden fat around the loins and kidneys? Right? So how do you know in the context? How would you know if there were no vowels? You wouldn't know. Be impossible to know. Also, it says 3 times, Lo tavashel gedi bechet lamed beis imoy. Do not cook a calf in, the beis means in, chet lamed beis, right? Question what that's going to mean. Imo means his mother. So it means don't cook a calf in its mother's what? I can read it 2 ways. It could be chalav, which means milk. Or it can mean chalev, which means fat, right? Don't cook a calf in its fat. Now, what would that mean? Practically speaking, what would that mean? Can't deep fry anything. We deep fry a lot of things, so obviously can't mean that. Or maybe we're transgressing over here. But how do you know what the word means? There's a word there, chalav or chalev. Now, in the context, how do I know what it is? Well, what's the obvious answer? The obvious answer is the vowels. You have to know how to be able to pronounce the words. If you don't know how to pronounce the word, how are you going to know what to do? How are you going to know what it means? Right? So therefore, you need to know how to pronounce it. There's a word, Yud Resh Aleph Hey. Now, you could pronounce it Yira. Yira means fear, right? Simply means fear. You could pronounce it Yireh, right? With the segel, the S sound as a what do you call it, as a vowel. What does Yireh mean? It means he will see. You could pronounce it Yera'eh. You can put an A sound underneath the yod and an S sound at the end, right? Underneath the aleph. Now, what does Yera'eh mean? It means he will be seen. Past tense, not present tense. Or you put a dot there and it could be Yora'ah. What does Yora'ah mean? He will show. Very, very big difference here, right? What the vowels are and exactly what it means. So therefore, what do I see by definition? Very simple pronunciation is important to what's being said, right? Why is it important? Because you have to know what the word means. If you don't know if you don't know the vowels, there are many different ways the word potentially could be pronounced. So now, if you look at the Torah, it's got all consonants. There are no vowels. Now, how are you going to know how to pronounce? How are you going to know how to pronounce things? The only way you can pronounce things is if you heard someone else say it. In other words, if now we just said the word chalev or the word chalav, right? Chalev means forbidden fat. Chalav means milk. So now it's going to be broadcast all over. And now people are going to hear what the word is. It's either chalev or chalav. Yeah? How are you going to know what it is? Because you heard someone say it. You heard someone pronounce it. What do we call that in the vernacular? We call that oral tradition, i.e. that was passed down, how you say it, how you read it. Come on, the Christians or Muslims who quite often misquote the Torah. They are relying, as we said, on this Masoretic text, and the Masoretic text has vowels, so they are relying 100% how we pronounce it, because they would have no translation otherwise. They can see the vowels, how in the world they know how to read it? They would never know how to read it unless they heard it, and someone read it to them, or they heard someone speak it. Either way, doesn't matter. So comes along oral tradition, and what does it tell me? Among other things, it tells me how to pronounce it. Because if I had no oral tradition, I would have no idea how to make heads and tails of what the Torah says. Right? I look at a Torah scroll. If I look at a Torah scroll, when does the sentence end? Where does it begin? Where is there a comma in between? You would never know. You would never know unless someone taught you. And how do they know? Very good. That's what oral tradition is. Now, as we said before, Torah has no punctuation, right? Torah scroll written in consonants, no punctuation, right? So, for example, right, why is this crucial? Why is this important? Because there's a book called Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. Yeah, and what's the book on? It's on English punctuation, right? That's what it is. The English punctuation, very good. It's got a picture of a panda on a ladder, and it says eats, comma, shoots, and leaves. Right, that's on the front page. And what's the panda busy doing? If anyone's ever seen the book, the erasing the comma after the word eats. Right, he's erasing the comma. Now, why is he doing that? Right, just to mess everybody up. Why is he doing that? Because it says eats, comma, shoots, and leaves. Right? What would that be? What would that be if I punctuate a little bit different? We're slandering an entire panda community. Why? Why? What are we saying over here? It would mean the panda eats, then shoots, and then it leaves. Right? It doesn't look so good if you're a panda. Yeah, if you erase the comma. Yeah, if I take out the comma, what happens? A panda eats, shoots, and leaves. There's a big difference. It's a huge difference over here if I take the comma out, right, or not. So now, $1 million question, where does punctuation come from? Where does punctuation come from in the Torah? So if anyone's ever heard the Torah being read in synagogue or even online, doesn't really matter, as long as they know what they're doing, it's sung with what we call Tamei Mikra. What's Tamei Mikra? Means tunes. Tunes which provide punctuation. Remember, Torah doesn't have punctuation. You look at the Torah scroll, there is no punctuation. So therefore, what is it telling me? When to start, when to stop, go up, go down. There's hesitation. So I need oral tradition to be able to read the Torah. Now, if I don't have oral tradition, and a person's going to say, poo-poo, I'm only going to listen to what the Torah says, right? We have the Karaites out there, plenty of Karaites out there. I mean, maybe 50,000 or more, whatever. Okay, they're going to say, we're not going to listen to oral law. We're not going to listen to what the rabbis say. Okay, so how are they going to punctuate the Torah? How in the world are they going to punctuate the Torah and know how to read it? Have to rely on them. Yeah, so you need oral tradition to be able to read it. If you don't have oral tradition, otherwise, i.e., you have no punctuation, you're going to have no idea. It's going to be one long run-on sentence. How in the world are you going to put punctuation in it if you don't have it? Or if you don't know where to put it? Yeah, that would make it incomprehensible. So that's one thing. Right? That's one thing why it's crucial to have punctuation, crucial to have vowels in order to understand what the Torah actually says. But you can only understand what the Torah says if you heard someone say it. And you heard someone read it. Very good. That's one thing. I got another issue. Right? The other issue is the Torah. What about legal definitions? A lot of things in the Torah, right, don't do that. Torah doesn't tell me legal definitions. Right? So it's pretty amazing if you have a legal document doesn't define anything. Right? Mind-boggling. How do you have a legal document that's, stood the test of time, right? Stood the test of time. It has absolutely no definitions. It's got no definitions. Yeah. The Torah says, for example, right? One example, don't do any work on Shabbos. Don't do any work. Now, is there a definition of not doing work? No definition. Yeah. Now, in physics, what would I say work means? Work is equal to a force times x, whatever it is, right? Displacement, right? Force times displacement. Displacement, i.e., we'll call that distance. Okay. In other words, lifting up a paper, not forbidden on Shabbos. Yeah. So if I throw the paper, if I lift it up, isn't that work? According to this, right? So what's the definition? Also, Torah says on the 10th day of the 7th month, which day is that? Torah says certain things you can't do on the 10th day of the 7th month. Okay, when's the 7th month? Right? When is that? We understand it's Yom Kippur. Yeah, that's the day of Yom Kippur. How do you know when the day starts? Well, again, no definition. Does it start when you see 3 stars? Does it start when you can't see the sun anymore? When does it end? Don't know. Right? No definition. Torah says, right? What does Torah say that you should do on Yom Kippur? It says, V'nisem es nafsho seichem. Right? In the book of Leviticus, chapter 24, right? It says, V'nisem es nafsho seichem. What does that mean? It means you shall literally afflict your soul. What does afflicting of the soul mean? We have no definition. Right? We have no definition whatsoever what affliction of the soul is. Right? If you just written the Torah, maybe it means, what could be affliction? Reading Russian novels. Maybe that's affliction. Could be. Trying to read Chinese. Rolling around on thumbtacks. That could be affliction. Ripping out your skin. Parts of your skin. Maybe that's affliction. Don't know. Torah doesn't tell me what affliction is. The oral tradition tells us what is affliction. What is affliction? Affliction means don't eat, don't drink, gotta fast. Right? Otherwise, how do I know what it means to afflict the body? Afflict the soul. Even better, right? It says afflict the soul. How do you afflict the soul? Should have said maybe afflict the body. Okay, even if it said afflict the body. What affliction are we talking about? Torah says don't murder. Okay, what's the definition? Who does it apply to? When is someone considered alive? What about a fetus? Right? Christians say, what is life? When the egg is fertilized, even if it's frozen. Okay, very good. So what's death? How do we define it? Yeah, again, either there are 2 possibilities here. 2 possibilities. Either the author of the Torah left us totally in the dark without defining anything, and that would be absolute chaos, right? Maybe that's an option. What's the other option? He gave us explanations. He gave us explanations what these things mean, i.e., which is oral Torah. Now, how could I explain that? Different way, a little bit different way. Person is, let's say, in a lecture, right? They're in a lecture. So what do you do in a lecture normally? You might take notes, right? So imagine you're taking notes in chemistry, right? Back in the day, you're learning about chemistry. So you're taking notes for, I mentioned salt. Very good. What are you going to write for salt? If you're taking chemistry, NaCl. That's an abbreviation, right? Or gold is AU. Lead is PB. So they're abbreviations, right? Everyone understands that. They're abbreviations for chemical reactions. Good. Now, so you wrote all this stuff down, right? And in shorthand, essentially, abbreviations. So now someone comes along, a friend of yours comes along and says, I want to read it. Let me see what you wrote. Let me see your notes. We'll compare notes. Yeah. He reads it with all these abbreviations. He sees NaCl, he says PB, he sees AU, he says all these different things. And he's like, what is this? It's like chicken scratch, right? He doesn't know how to read shorthand. He doesn't know how to read this, right? Now, the difference is, though, he was at the lecture, or she was at the lecture. So if they were both, if they were at the lecture, then they understand what it is. They understand these are abbreviations. The abbreviations for chemical reactions. So the written law, so in very short here, written law are what? Right? The Torah itself, as we have it, right? We call it the written law. The written law are the notes. They're the notes to the lecture. It's a shorthand. Right? The entire lecture is oral law. In other words, I got all these things, do, don't do, whatever it is that the Torah tells me, right? And the Torah does, that's shorthand, but doesn't tell me anything. Doesn't tell me how to do anything. Doesn't tell me what the definitions are, right? Even the Karaites have to have definitions, right? When the Torah says, put frontlets between your eyes, we understand it's tefillin. They also understand it's tefillin. Very good. So they also understood that's the same thing. Where they get it from? They didn't get it by themselves. Because it's a tradition, same what it was. So the entire lecture, though, the notes are what, right? The written law are considered like the notes. The entire lecture is oral law. Now, when did they hear the lecture? When did the Jewish people hear the lecture? They were in the desert for 40 years. Now, we know what happened between the first year. We know what happened the last year. Now, there are 38 years in between. So what's going on for 38 years? Just teaching them the notes? Right? It's a long time to be teaching 3 million people the notes. Right? So what's the problem here? So we're getting a lecture. We're getting a lecture on Judaism, right? You had Moses teach other people, and they were teaching, and other people were teaching other people, etc. So they're getting a lecture being transmitted to us, i.e., we got the notes. What were the notes? The 5 books. 5 books of Moses, right? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. So we were getting the notes. Very good. Now, if you heard the lecture and I told you the notes, ahead of time, then you're going to understand what's going on, right? In other words, if you heard all these things, do this, don't do that, whatever, and then Moses gets up and other people get up and start teaching what it means, they understand. They understand, okay, these things are in abbreviated form. Very good. So now they're going to explain what it means. And if you went to somebody, right, if you went to somebody, even before that, right, if in this case, let's say, that you know the notes and you heard the lecture. Very good. If you didn't know the notes lecture, you're going to be lost. There's no other possible way to understand it. You're lost, right? You didn't get the shorthand. So if you didn't get the shorthand, you're going to hear this long lecture, like what's going on, right? Now, someone, let's say, use one other example, which we already mentioned, but we'll use it again. And that is, you go to someone totally unfamiliar to Torah. Unfamiliar to Torah. They know nothing. And you tell them, I want you to put frontlets between your eyes. And I want you to put a sign upon your arm. They know nothing about Torah. Zero. Yeah? Never seen anything on YouTube. Zero. What would they do? What's a frontlet? Good question. Right? So what do? Go to a piercing parlor, maybe. And you say, I want a frontlet between my eyes. They're going to say frontlet, like, what do you mean? Right? A sign upon your arm. What is that? What's a sign upon your arm? Tattoo your mother? Right? Father, Tasmanian devil. A tattoo. Who knows what that is? Don't tell me. Right? What does it mean? Now, even secular Jews who don't know anything about Torah, when it comes to a bar mitzvah in general, right, as long as they're hopefully, if they're associated with some type of synagogue, they know by a boy when he gets bar mitzvah, he's going to be wearing tefillin, phylacteries, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they know that. That's what it's going to be. Some will be smaller, some will be bigger, whatever. They have no clue what's in the tefillin, right? They won't have, they don't have a clue really how to tie it either. Okay, but everybody will tell you, even secular Jews, they will tell you when someone gets bar mitzvah, and maybe even bat mitzvah, maybe they get tefillin for girls also, which, we say is forbidden, but it doesn't matter, right? They're going to tell you what I mean, of course. Someone's bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, they're going to wear tefillin. They're going to put on tefillin. Very good. Where they get it from? How do they know that? If you would ask them how you know that, I mean, what do you mean? That's what Jews do. They put on tefillin. Very good. Where'd it come from? Where'd it come from? It says, well, it must say it somewhere. Very good. It does. It says put frontlets between your eyes and a sign upon your arm. Yeah. And that's where the rabbis get. Say, oh, that means tefillin. Right? They can say, well, the rabbis tell us to do it. That's why we wear tefillin. Yeah, I don't, even the conservative synagogue, I grew up in, never heard anyone question it. Nobody said, well, how do we know it's tefillin? They say this is what we do. How do we know what to do? Because we have a tradition what to do. What's the tradition what to do? To put on tefillin. Where'd they get it from? How'd they know? And there are thousands of laws. Where'd they get it from? This is where they got it from. Yeah, it's passed down orally. So even by secular Jews, no one's going to question this. They'll question other things. Doesn't matter what this means, what that means, and they'll change all kinds of things. No, Shabbos doesn't really mean that. It means like this, and I can do what I want. That's not the point. That's not the point. Things are, there are plenty of things that are, that are black and white. They're not going to question. They will not question. Other things they may question, doesn't matter, but they just have a lack of understanding and they want to do what they want to do, right? They don't want to be inconvenienced. Very good. So here, okay, so they'll buy cheaper tefillin. They're going to buy tefillin that's like, a couple $1,000, right? They'll buy cheaper tefillin. Okay, the kosher, hopefully, they should be kosher. Maybe they're not. I don't know, whatever it is, right? They'll do the minimal that they may have to do. Because they're not going to spend all kinds of money because they'll never use it. Okay, so spend less money. Good. But even in such a case, I've never heard it. Reform synagogue and, conservative synagogue. I mean, maybe times have changed, don't know, over the last, 30, 40 years. But nobody is questioning this among the Jewish people. They say, of course, it's tefillin. Yeah. They're going to say that's what you do. Maybe Reform synagogue, they don't put it on, whatever. Yeah, but if they were going to do it, that's where they get it from, and they're not going to question it. Why are they going to question it? You see, and people say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I don't feel comfortable doing it. That's not even the question, right? That has nothing to do with the question here. What's going on is they'll say why they disagree with it, or why they don't want to do it, or whatever. But they're not saying, well, who said I have to put on tefillin? And maybe some people are saying that, could be, right? Who says I have to put on tefillin? Well, the Torah says it, right? Then you show them the verse, right? You show them a few verses. They say, well, what are frontlets, right? Maybe we've all been duped. Maybe we've all been lied to. They want you to put on these straps or whatever, these black straps and put a, box on your head. Okay, maybe we've all been lied to. Good. But again, in my own, my own personal experience, never heard anybody question this. Whether they did it or not, it's another story. But no one questioned, doesn't exist. They didn't know where it got it from. It's all made up bunch of malarkey. They didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it. It's another issue, right? But no one ever said it's not true. We don't have, it's that's not what tefillin are. That's not what the verse means. No one's questioning that. But where they get it from? Where they get it from? They say, well, they get it from the parents. Very good. How the parents know? The grandparents told them, right? They went to synagogue, whatever. Even when people went off, doesn't matter. When they started off younger, this is what they did. You got to remember, up to 250 years ago, everybody was Orthodox, right? Back in Russia, Poland, all these places. A boy turns 13 in a day. But, what does he do? He puts on tefillin. That's what he does. Maybe for a month before, 2 months before they start practicing. Very good, right? They make the blessing of Shechianu, the Thanksgiving blessing, the day they put on tefillin for real. Everybody did it throughout the generations. In any country, it doesn't matter unless they didn't get the Torah there, or it got skewed, or whatever. But, in all past generations, that's what they did. How they know? How they know? Why? Dad, why do I have to wear these things? Because just do it. It's tradition. That's what we do. But, and his father tells him the same thing and go back or whatever. So what do you mean? It's a divine command. It's a divine command. You put on tefillin. What's the question? Right? What's the question? Now, based on that, very good. So that shows I need oral tradition. I need how to write the word, read the words. I need to know how to hear the words. And I have to know what they mean. And I have to know how they're explained. So it's like, again, it's like the notes to the lecture. Very good. Now, one other thing. Sometimes there are different traditions between Ashkenazic and Sephardic, right? Let's say, or even Hasidic. In some places, let's say, waiting, if a person ate meat, how long do you have to wait in order to eat milk? Right? So, if a person had, was from Germany originally. Their family was from Germany originally. They'd wait 3 hours. Yeah, but everybody else holds 6 hours, and if you're in Holland, you hold 1 hour. Right? I don't know if anyone really even in Holland holds that today, but there's the whole question. There's the whole question: how long you wait. So there are different, there are different traditions on things, right? But it doesn't, even if there are here and there, right? 99%, Ashkenazic, Sephardic, and Hasidic, all believe the same thing. They all basically believe the same thing. So, there are traditions here that are a little bit different, traditions they're a little bit different, but it's all within the same, it's all within the same parameters. Now, based on that, doesn't change anything, right? Essentially, it doesn't take them out from being Jewish. They're within certain, certain parameters, certain customs that, they held, like, certain rabbis one way, other community held, differently, okay. So it depends on the community person, grew up in, but you can't pick and choose either, right? As let's say a convert or a secular Jew, if your parents didn't have, traditions, concrete traditions, and certain things you can pick what you want to do, right? You can pick, let's say, in this case, not a good example about waiting between meat and milk, because the majority holds 6 hours between meat and milk, but other things, let's say mourning customs from the beginning of Passover till Shavuot. They're different customs, right? Could hold like this, could hold like that. So, like, a person could choose what they want to do. Certain things that, if you didn't grow up with tradition, then you can choose certain things. You can choose certain things, but in general, everything else, if you're going to go according to Ashkenazic tradition, let's make this clear. If you're going to go according to Ashkenazic tradition, you do what Ashkenazic Jews do, right? You don't go back and forth, right? In other words, you're going to hold according to one tradition, good. You're going to hold according to another tradition, good. Certain things maybe I can take from one tradition. If you're another tradition, it depends what it is. Right? It depends what it is. But in general, you don't go back and forth. Right? In general, you don't go back and forth. For example, let's say someone's Ashkenazic. Give one example. Let's say someone's Ashkenazic. They have glass plates. Yeah. Now, according to Ashkenazic tradition, glass plates we hold you can't use for both milk and meat. Right? In other words, if I ate meat, I wash it off, and then I can use it for dairy. Can't do that. We hold you can't do that. Right? According to Sephardic tradition, you can do it. Why? According to Sephardic tradition, they hold doesn't absorb. Right? Glass doesn't absorb. So Ashkenazic tradition holds that it does. But let's say, someone want to save money, whatever, they wanted to use it for both. They had glass dishes, they want to use it for both. So a person's Ashkenazic say, great, in this case, I'll be Sephardic. I'll hold like what Sephardic tradition is. No, that you can't do. Right? That you can't do. Right? You can't pick and choose, which traditions you're going to do. Either you're going to go one way, you're going to go the other way. Now, let's say someone chose, they chose to be Ashkenaz. They chose to be Ashkenazic. Very good. They don't like certain things, whatever. They want to change 100%. They want to be Sephardic. Okay, so there are certain ramifications for that. Very good. But you can't go back and forth. Once you make a choice, you make a choice. You can't say, 6 months later, a month later, say, no, I want to go back to Ashkenaz. Right? You got to make a concrete choice. Either I'm going to go this way or this way. Now, some things can change. Some things down the line could change. The person says, you know what? I want to sing and dance a little bit more. I want to be Hasidic. Okay. You got to change the way they dress. You got to change some other things. Okay. Right? But again, you don't bounce around like a ping pong ball. Right? Either you go one way, you go the other way. That's it. Certain other things that don't have any ramifications, okay. A person can take on if they don't have any halachic ramification. But you're not picking and choosing, doing from this, from that. I'm going to pick like this and, make it a whole hodgepodge, right? Either you go one way, you go the other way, right? And a person can choose. I would say if they have lineage, if they have Jewish lineage, which is Ashkenaz, I would say you should stay Ashkenaz, right? Why change it? But if they say they don't relate to it, they relate more to, Sephardic customs and different things, okay, person could change it. Right? I would say it's better to stay the way you are, but you don't have to. You don't have to. It's not, for some people, let's say they grew up, very Lithuanian, whatever, they become Hasidish because they want to sing and dance a little bit more. I don't know, whatever it is. Can they do that? They could. They certainly can if they feel more comfortable and it makes them feel that they're closer to God or whatever. It doesn't necessarily change anything. Certain customs will change, but everything else is the same, right? The way they pray is going to be a little bit different, right? Because the way the service is set up, right? Some prayers are before, some prayers are after, whatever, especially in the morning. So okay, there are some differences, right? There are some differences. Okay, but it's not like major difference. There is a version called Nusach Italki, right? It's Italian, right? It's the Italian version, of the prayers. It's totally different. They're probably closer to real Sephardic tradition, but it's unique in its own way. It's unique in its own way. I mean, many things they do that are similar. Prayers are similar. It's just the way the prayer book is set up and everything else is very, from Ashkenaz, it's very different. Very, 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 very different. It's closer to Sephardic tradition. That's true. That is true. It is closer to Sephardic tradition. So, anyone's going to do it, okay. I guess when Italy do when in Rome do like the Romans, I guess. And the other thing is, I'll take questions. The other thing is okay. So now I understand the rabbis put in the vows. Now I understand I need definitions, right? Very good. But people say they made it much harder. Rabbis made it much harder. But one of the things they did is they wanted to preserve Torah. They want to make barriers around the Torah so a person doesn't come to worse transgressions. Meaning there are a lot of laws, very complex laws, and the laws of Shabbos. Now, why do they make so many fences around the law, in the laws of Shabbos, right? What's forbidden in the laws of Shabbos? Anything that was done in the tabernacle. Anything that was done in the tabernacle was forbidden. And anything similar to that. Because if they didn't say anything similar to that, then you might come to a worse prohibition. Then you might actually transgress Torah prohibitions. Right? So kasher is a similar thing. Not mixing milk and meat. So not mixing milk and meat, you say good. That's only eating animal with cheese. Right, or an animal with milk, or meat, meat and milk or whatever. So I have to go the whole thing, separate dishes, separate pots, separate silverware, cutlery, wherever you come from, right? Separate everything. What's the reason? They don't say anywhere in the Torah. So why'd they add that on? So you don't make mistakes. They added it on because you can seriously make mistakes. If you're not careful. That's why you have everything separate. Yeah, you don't use the same. You don't use the same pot and pan for milk and meat. Or you don't use the same silverware, whatever. You mix them up. You say, no, I won't do that. I'll kosher it. I wait 24 hours. I'll put it in a pot, boiling water. I'll kosher it. No one's going to do that. And if they do, it's very time consuming. And don't forget to say, oh, yeah, I did it. Or I kosher. That's why a person shouldn't use an oven for milk and meat together. Right? You can say, no, I'm going to remember. I'm going to, I'll clean it out, before, I'll kosher the oven. Even though I just use it for meat, I'll now use it for dairy, right? Whatever. People will forget. People, or they won't remember, right? Same thing. They'll forget if they did it or not. Maybe they'll say, yeah, I did it. Then they didn't really do it. And they didn't really do it. Now they're eating treif. Right? Now they're eating treif. You got to wait 24 hours. You got to make sure it's clean. Nothing spilled there. I mean, there are a lot of problems. A lot of problems, right? So in this case, they made a lot of, they made barriers, which a lot of people don't like, okay. But why'd they do that? Well, God gave them the right to do it anyway, but that's not even the point. Why'd they do it? They did it because they don't want people to come to worse transgressions. And a person will forget. Yeah. And even if certain things, let's say on the laws of Shabbos, certain things would be permissible to take away a person's enjoyment of Shabbos. Same thing. Right? But the main thing is, pretty clear. They want to make sure someone is not going to come to a worse prohibition, i.e. a Torah prohibition. So they made these barriers, right? They absolutely made these barriers, and that's the point, is to make sure someone's not going to do that. All right, let me take some questions here. One second. Yeah, someone says study about vows beforehand, or is these variations of vows are used using God's name? Okay, yeah, that's true, right? The Hebrew sounds not the same as English. That's true, right? That's why That's why I would never tell anyone to use a prayer book that is transliterated, even though it's easier in the short run, because then you know how to pronounce the words. But in the long run, once you know how to read Hebrew, you might have to relearn everything you did. So everything that you learned and how to pronounce goes out the window, because right now you pronounced it really wrong, right? I mean, yeah. So people say, but it makes it much easier. At least I can say the words. Okay, right? I would say it's better to break your teeth, over a longer period of time than have to relearn everything and do it again. Now, people don't have to take my advice. They can buy a prayer book that's transliterated, and they can certainly use it. It'll make life easier now. But eventually they'll come to agree that once they learn how to read Hebrew, they're going to see things that, even if they're transliterated in the best way possible, you still make mistakes. You definitely can make mistakes. The word is still the same, only the pronunciation changes. No, that's not true. The word is not the same. The word has the same consonants, yes. The difference is the vowels. When we use the word yira, right? Yud Reish Aleph Hey, right? The word Yud Reish Aleph Hey, depending where the vowels go, what the vowels are, could mean something in the past. I saw something in the past. Could be present. Could be demonstrated. Right? It doesn't mean just to see. It means it was demonstrated. It's different way. It's not just saying I saw it. Demonstration is much more active. Right? It's a totally different thing than I just actually saw it. So yeah, but it's not only that. When the Torah is being read and the pronunciation is wrong, let's say they mispronounce, whoever's reading the Torah mispronounces the word. Now, if they mispronounce the word, if it doesn't change the meaning of the word in the context, then they allow them to continue. If it changes the context, what it means, then they stop it. Then they stop them and correct them, right? And that has to be done because it's not being read right, right? The context is not going to be understood in the right way. So some people would say, come on, if you do that, you embarrass him. That's not embarrassing him, right? Whoever's reading it means you got to get it right. That's what it means. And, it's a big responsibility because you're helping people fulfill their obligation. It's a decree of Ezra, right? You got to hear the Torah 3 times during the week. So we do it on Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos, right? Probably the majority of people, read the Torah and hear the Torah on Shabbos, right? Because they're freer than being during the week, even though a guy has to hear the Torah 3 times during the week, right? He has to hear it on Monday and Thursday, right? As well, nonetheless, right? Pronunciation is crucial. Right? And what the vowels are will determine what the word means. And if you mispronounce the word, then you mispronounce the context. And the context changes. And the context can't change, if it's supposed to mean what it's supposed to mean. If you change what it means, that's not what it means. Right? That's the problem. So when it says, except with gematria, gematria is a different issue. Gematria is a whole different thing. We're not talking about gematria. Gematria is just numerical values that every letter has. Right? That every letter has, right? Aleph is 1, Beis is 2, Gimel is 3. Very good. Right? So people compare different things, different words that have the same numerical value. Give one example. The word Amalek, right? Ayin Mem Lamed Kuf, right? The word Amalek has the same numerical value if you add up all the letters, right? Has the same numerical value as Suffolk. The word Samach Pei Kuf. What does the word Suffolk mean? Doubt. They brought doubt to the world. What does doubt to the world mean? They brought atheism to the world. Belief or non-belief in the supernatural. That's significant. I mean, there are other things also that are significant. In that case, when it comes to gematria, don't make the mistake. It's not about pronunciation. It has nothing to do with the vowels. It has to do with the letters, right? And what the letters represent. See, if a person, drinks on Purim, and they can do the numerical value of Baruch, Mordechai, and Aror, Haman, right? A lot of letters there, right? If you can add up all the letters and get the same amount on both sides, it equals the same, right? If you figure it out, Baruch, Mordechai, right? Baruch, Mordechai, and Aror, Haman, and blessed be Mordechai and cursed be Haman, same exact number, right? Same gematria, same numerical value. Right. So, if you drank enough on Purim, it's going to be kind of hard to do. Depends how much you drank. right? Depends how much you drink, right? But, okay, but vowels have nothing to do with it. It's only the letters, right? It's only the letters that you can do this with, not the vowels. So you'd say, well, gematria adds depth from other variations. Okay, right? But, there are 13 ways of interpretation that we say every day, 13 ways of Rabbi Shema, right? That we say before the beginning, really, of the morning service, that different ways of biblical exegesis, different ways of interpretation. Gematria is not mentioned, by the way. It's not mentioned there. They're all. I'm not going to go through them, but there are 13 that are mentioned that help get us clarity in learning Torah. And through biblical exegesis. Interesting enough, gematria is not there. Gematria is not there. Now, someone said, a heavenly voice. If you heard a heavenly voice that says, I meant you can't cook a kid in its mother's fats. Yes, we don't listen to it because that's not what it is. I mentioned last week that Rabbi Lezer, the Gemara says there's disagreement between the rabbis and Rabbi Lezer. And so Rabbi Lezer said they disagree with him. So he said if the halacha is like me, this stream should go backwards. The halacha is like me, this should happen. The last thing he said is if the halacha is like me, then the walls of the base measure should come crumbling down. They start to shake. The walls started to shake. Yeah. When the walls started to shake, the rabbi said, the Torah is not in heaven. We go according to the majority. The majority is according to the rabbis. The rabbi said, we disagree with Rabbi Eliezer over here. And the wall stopped. The wall stopped shaking. The Gemara says that God said, my children have defeated me. So we have to understand what that means. Right? Not the scope for today, but the bottom line, if a heavenly voice cannot contradict Torah, cannot contradict what we do in this world, right? Torah is given to Bnei Adam, we say, as King David says in Psalms, we say every day. It's given to man for us to interpret. Very good. So how do we interpret cooking a calf in its mother's what? Milk. That's everybody holds that. Everybody holds that. How do we know? Because that's what we do. That's the majority. Go according to the majority. Yeah. So if that's true, a heavenly voice cannot contradict that. And say it means something else. We're not going to listen to a heavenly voice. If someone does miracles, yeah, and they want to say that we should change the Torah. You don't listen to them. You kill them. They're called the false prophet. You kill them. Yeah. So a heavenly voice has no say over here. And that's exactly what the Gemara says. Even though God says, whatever Rabbi Lezer says, the halacha is like him, or the rabbis say, no, we're the majority. You go according to the majority. Yeah, you go according to the majority. The Torah's not in heaven. And God said, my children beat me. They're right. I have no say. God says, I have no say. I have to go according to what they say. I'll give another example. The laws of festivals. Yeah. When do festivals start? So you say we have a calendar. What happened before the calendar? So they would send out witnesses if they saw the new moon, right? And when they saw it and where it was, and they would ask them all kinds of questions, right? Now sometimes, let's say they got back late or whatever. So that day, when they say they saw the moon, they got back. That day would be holy. The next day would be holy. You have 2 days. 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. 2 days of the new month. Now the Kutites came, messed everything up. And now we have a calendar. Right? Now we have a calendar. But so what happens if they didn't sanctify the day? Let's say the Jewish people do not sanctify a holiday. What happens? So the Gemara says, God saying sanctified in heaven. Very good. But when do we fix the holidays? According to who? According to us. The Torah says 7th day, the 10th day of the 7th month. Yeah? So when do the months start? Right? Difference of opinion. You go according to, what's the first month? Is it Nisan or is it Tishrei? Nisan's one's Passover, right? Look at that, it's the first month, right? Tishrei is later, right? What do you call it? Yom Kippur comes then, right? In Tishrei, very good. But there's an opinion when you start counting. But Torah doesn't tell me, right? So the Jewish people have the right to fix the calendar and fix the days, when the holidays are going to be. Not done in heaven, in general, unless we didn't do it. If we did it, very good. Heaven has no say. Heaven has no say, right? It goes by goes by what we do. So in the Shemona Esrei, on a festival, it doesn't come on Shabbos. What do we say? What do we say in the blessing before the temple service? We say, Baruch atah Hashem. We say, God's source of all blessing. Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmoni. That the Jewish people sanctified the holidays. It doesn't say God sanctified the holidays. It says the Jewish people sanctified the holidays, understanding what God wanted from them. They go against God. They did how they understood it, and God allowed it. And God said, that's right. That's what you should do. But there's just an interesting case. What happens if the Jewish people didn't sanctify the new moon or whatever? Is the day going to be sanctified or not? It's done in heaven, whatever that means. It's done in heaven, not here. Right? I'm going to say it wasn't done here, but it's done anyway. You still have to do it, but we can't do that anyway. We have a fixed calendar for that reason. In case, whoever in foreign countries, we're going to keep a calendar. So he'll fix the calendar for all generations, by the destruction of the temple. All right. So then the question is, okay, so if that's true, you have 2-day festival, for let's say, first days, last days, so Passover, Sukkot, and 2 days for Shavuos, except in Israel. Israel will have 1 day. Right? But what do you need 2 days for? We know the calendar. So why doesn't everyone outside of Israel hold 2 days? Why do they hold 2 days? They should only hold 1 day. So one answer is they hold the same doubt as their forefathers had back in the day. Right? Or sometimes, in history, the calendar could have been taken away. So, so they hold 2 days. Right? A few different answers. Right? A few different answers. But if we already have the calendar, that's the obvious question. The question is, why do I need 2 days outside of Israel? Everybody knows the calendar. It's already been fixed for all generations. So I don't have to worry. So I should only hold 1 day. Can't do that outside of Israel. In general, if you live there. Yeah, you can't do that. You only have 1 day. Rosh Hashanah was 2 days everywhere. Right? Even in Israel, it was 2 days. All right, someone here mentions, Moses is a god. Said someone else, yeah. Sounds a little backwards, yeah. Someone doesn't like it, okay. And so he sort of asked, mostly told his father-in-law, would have been irrelevant if it didn't seem if Abraham didn't listen. Now, think about this. One of the things, got me thinking about, that at least the way the conservative movement does things is, it's totally backwards. And I was sitting in a class, they had the conservative movement in New York. And the professor gets up one day and he says, and this course is in biblical criticism, which they claim either makes you Orthodox or an atheist, right? It's like, analyzing the Torah, comparing it to Rabbi's code and other things. And, whatever it is, still claiming that it has some level of holiness. Professor gets up, I'm not going to call him a rabbi, he gets up and he says, if Abraham didn't exist, would that stop you from putting on tefillin? I was like half asleep, wasn't really paying attention. And then 10 minutes later, I'm getting lunch or whatever. I'm like, what do you mean Abraham didn't exist? What kind of question is that? In other words, if Abraham gave all spiritual things to Isaac to Jacob passed it down to Jewish people and they got codified at Mount Sinai, Abraham had to exist. 100%, but it's even a stupider question because even according to other cultures, he existed, right? The interesting theoretical question, but if he didn't exist, why would we be keeping anything? If you don't have Abraham, you don't have Isaac, you don't have Jacob, you don't have the Jewish people. Very simple answer. I wish I would have, said that and had more knowledge to flatten this person like a pancake. It's a stupid question. It's a stupid question. Because if he didn't exist, you don't have Torah. Right? You could say, wow, if Abraham didn't do this or someone didn't do that, you got to remember one thing also. The Torah says by the 6th day, at the end of the 6th day, it says the 6th day, right? Every other day, it says a first day, a second day, a third day. Why the 6th day? Why is there a hey there? Why does it say Yom HaShishi? Every other day, it says Yom Chamishi, 5th day, Yom Revi, 4th day, Yom Sheni, 2nd day. Why does it say Hashishi? Why does it say the 6th day? What's the reference to? What the reference? So Rashi says, you know what the sixth day means? Sixth day of Sivan. What happened the sixth day of Sivan? God gave the Torah to Jewish people. Oh, very good. Sixth day or seventh day, the whole discussion, right? Well, let's say sixth day. So God gave the Torah to the Jewish people on the sixth day of Sivan, meaning if the Jewish people or anyone was never going to accept the Torah, the world goes back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, goes back to the original chaos. Jewish people someone had to accept the Torah. God understood it was going to be the Jewish people, very good. But somebody had to accept the Torah. If you don't accept the Torah, the world has no point of being created. And someone had to accept it. So even if you're going to say, well, Abraham didn't listen, someone would have listened. If it wasn't Abraham, someone else would have come on the scene. And if someone else would have come on the scene, they would have got the Torah. You remember, Gemara says, and the Medrash says, God went to all the nations. None of the nations wanted the Torah. And they all rejected it. It came to the Jewish people. You want the Torah? Sure. You want to know what's written in it? No. Now 7 Ishmael will do, and then we'll hear what we're supposed to do. Right? Then we'll hear what it's all about. But no, we're going to keep it. No other nation wanted the Torah. If some other nation wanted the Torah, okay. Somebody had to accept Torah for the world to be in existence. Bottom line. So if Abraham would have rejected it, someone else would have come on the scene. Right? Even if he would have rejected it, doesn't matter. Someone would have had to accept the Torah. The world, the world would not, be able to exist if the Torah doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist. So it says, I agree, asking for any or denying personal ideas, what God means is relevant, right? Right? Or say is relevant, we'll keep in mind what God wants from us. Yeah, that's true. But at some point, we got to do what God says, whether we understand it or not. Right? And it's not about, some people would say, yeah, I have to look into it, I have to read about it, I have to see if it fits my world outlook. Yeah, you don't have to do anything. That's why the Jewish people said, we'll do, then we'll hear. It doesn't matter. Whatever you say, we're going to do. Now, you have to understand what it means. 100%. You have to understand what it means. Right? And there are plenty of things we're not going to understand fully, but you got to do it anyway. You got to keep it, whatever it says. Are your prayers and tefillin laid out according to Rashi? Yes. There's a difference of opinion how they're laid out, whether according to Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, right? His grandson. So some people to fulfill both obligations, they put on 2 different types. Yeah, main part of the prayer service they use Rashi. That's what most people do, and others will, and then afterwards they'll put on his grandson the way his grandson ordered the parchment way it should be put in. They disagree how the parchment should go in, which compartments, right? So most people wear one set, right? They just wear Rashi's. Others wear both. Others not at the same time, but. Others wear a second pair as well. Someone asked, when Mashiach comes, will the entire country of the world be transformed in status of the land of Israel? In the current land of Israel, the status of Jerusalem. Sounds like it. Right? I mean, they're not going to be Jews. Right? That's a mistake. Non-Jews are going to stay non-Jews, whoever survives. They're not becoming Jews. Right? The purpose for non-Jews, they're not going to be able to convert anyway. Even if they wanted to. They can't convert. No possible way. Right? No possible way. Why can't they convert? Because they see open miracles. If they survive, they see open miracles. Just like in the time of King David and Solomon, no one's allowed to convert for that reason. Right? For exactly that reason. But the main status is true that everything will revolve around the land of Israel, for sure. Right? Any other nations who, all other nations are gonna, be demolished, pretty much. And there'll be individuals maybe of those nations that won't be demolished. Right? But everything will focus on Israel, no question. Right? No question. The current land of Israel and the spiritual level of Yitzir. I'm not answering that. Go ask someone else about Kabbalah. Is the Hebrew text with the vowels trustworthy? Yes, it is. That's all we have. That's all we have. Yeah, the rabbis put it in. It is trustworthy. 100%. Otherwise, we never know what to do. Yeah. Who are the dependents of Esav today? Dependents of Esav, I would say, of the Western world, i.e. the U.S., Canada, South America, put in Australia, Europe. Yeah, they're the offshoot of Esav, right? They are the offshoot. They're the offshoot of Esav. Who are the descendants of Edom? So no one's going to know who anybody is today. Let's just understand. This question comes up: who are these people? Who are those people? It's irrelevant. Why is it irrelevant? It's irrelevant for one very simple reason, because Sennacherib messed up all the nations. So no one knows who anybody is today. But we do hold relatively simply, we do hold that the Western world is Edom. Right? The Western world, Edom is Esav. Yeah, the Western world. So who's the Western world today? America, Canada, we just mentioned, Europe, South America. What do you call it? Australia. I wouldn't put in, Far East. I mean, they're not part of Esav, right? Necessarily. But that's who I would say. Yeah, question comes up. Let's see. I heard it was all right for the phylacteries, minus the writings. If you want to learn how to put them on, you could. That's the way to do it, right? That's the way to do it. You have nothing in it, right? There are no, so that has no holiness. It's got nothing, right? It's got no parchment in it. So if a person right before conversion, they're going to put on tefillin very good, they're not going to have the parchment in it until after conversion. They'll learn how to put them on very good, right? But keep in mind the same thing with the mezuzah. You put something on your front door, or any room except the bathroom. Let's say you put a mezuzah up there. You need the scroll, right? The parchment. Without the parchment, it's nothing, right? It's nothing over here. So I mean, yeah, you have to treat it properly, but essentially, it's certainly not going to have the same, same level of holiness in that sense. Wouldn't I have to repurchase them from mikvah? No. If the person bought tefillin, they're already kosher. Let's say they've been checked, they're already kosher. Very good. So you don't have to repurchase them. Just because you put them on doesn't make them, spiritual cooties, right? Doesn't mean you nullify the mitzvah. You didn't do that, right? If they're kosher after the fact, then you can wear them. Then you can wear them after conversion, right? First, we'll get them checked beforehand just to make sure. Just to make sure. So if they have parchment that's kosher, whatever. Let's say it's in there, you don't wear them. You don't wear them now. Let's say they're in there, right? So I would tell someone to get it checked. Just make sure, get it checked, make sure it's fine. Then you don't wear it till right after conversion. But even if you did, let's say you put it on. Let's say you put it on before conversion. Let's say you put it on a lot of times before conversion. Let's say. Yeah, it doesn't nullify the mitzvah. It doesn't nullify what's written in the parchments, right? Unless there's a problem with what's written there. Right, but that you have to get checked out. Wearing it doesn't nullify. Is Chabad their own thing, or they're Ashkenazi? They're Hasidic. But the issue with Chabad is that I have a lot of respect what they do. They're pretty much separate from everyone else, even though they are Hasidic, right? They definitely are Hasidic, but they are separate, right? They don't integrate. They have their own communities, different things. Okay, right? But it doesn't mean they're not keeping Torah mitzvahs, right? Unless they're Messianics, and that's a whole different problem. That's kind of idolatry, right? Even though, my Rabbi would hold that. I don't think he's changed, but I think he would still hold that they're crazy. It's a crazy idea, but he doesn't hold it's what do you call it? It's idolatry. And others would disagree. Others would definitely disagree with him on that. But, if they're not Messianic, I don't have a problem with them. Right? Yeah, they have separate communities. They're part of their own entity. Right? That is true. They don't integrate. They have their own schools, their own things. Okay. But they're Hasidic. Also because of Russia. Okay. Rabbi said before, Chassid way to show Jews how to be Jewish. I don't know. Who said you have to be Hasidic? Who said you have to be Hasidic? Teach people how to be Jewish. Teach them how to sing and dance more. Okay. Learn Tanya, other things, okay. But anybody, anyone who knows what they're doing can teach. You don't have to be Hasidic for that. Yeah, let me see other questions here. So the new moon doesn't show up for whatever reason. Let's say you can't see it or whatever. We start a new month anyway. The calendar's fixed, so it's a moot point. Doesn't matter, right? The calendar's fixed. So if the calendar is fixed, whether the new moon, let's say it's totally cloudy for 3 days, you don't see a moon at all, right? Does that mean it's not, and let's say we know, let's say last Thursday night was Rosh Chodesh Adar, right? First night of Adar. And let's say there was no moon. Let's say there's no moon for 3 days. So what do you nullify it? We don't nullify it. We don't nullify it. No one does it today anyway, right? Because what the Kutites did, temple's destroyed anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? But the point is, he'll after that point fix the calendar, so we know what it is. We absolutely know what it is. But even if you didn't see the moon, it doesn't matter, right? It's cloudy for the day when you're supposed to see it. One day it's supposed to Rosh Chodesh. It's still Rosh Chodesh? Still Rosh Chodesh, right? Because the calendar was already fixed. Yeah, let me see other questions. Someone said, I think I saw someone Sephardi Chabad. That's why I was asking. With a Sephardi Sefer Torah. All right. I mean, again, they hold most things according to Ashkenazic tradition. Even Hasidim, they use an Ashkenazic Sefer Torah, which is different than the Sephardic Sefer Torah. I mean, the way it looks, but I mean, what's written is the same, right? That's so different, right? But that doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean, in a regular Chabad synagogue all over the world, you won't see a Sephardic Sefer Torah normally, unless someone donated it and they have to honor the person who donated it, whatever. Fine, but they're usually using, an Ashkenazic Sefer Torah, Ashkenazic Torah scroll. I meant some supernatural moon. The moon literally doesn't change its face. It's not going to matter. I mean, it's hypothetical, but it's not going to change. It's not going to change anything, right? It's not going to change anything. The calendar's fixed. If the calendar wouldn't be fixed and we still have to do this, yeah, then you might have a problem. Then we might have an issue. But the calendar's been fixed, so it's a moot point. Right? It's a moot point. Yeah. Any other questions? You said that Christians believe life begins. And when do you believe life begins? We believe life begins by conception. Right? Within 40 days, forbidden to do an abortion. Right? Sorry. It's permitted to do an abortion for a Jew, because it's not considered a life. After 40 days, we hold that it's considered a life. So after 40 days, you're not allowed to abort unless under certain under certain circumstances. So before 40 days, we hold it's not a viable life, it's nothing. Right? After 40 days, we hold it's a life. Right? So after 40 days, 6 weeks, whatever, a person does an abortion, that's murder. We hold that's murder. Right? It could be there's sometimes that maybe you have to kill the child. Right? It was a choice between the child and the mother. Right? Let's say the child's considered a pursuer, rodef, and it's going to kill the mother. You kill the child. Right? We go according to life right now, not potential life. Right? Someone once asked me many years ago, I wasn't even anywhere where I am today. Someone said, why would if the question of the mother of the child, Christianity believes, there's a non-Jew here, Christianity believes you kill the mother. Yeah, you let the mother die, you save the child. So we hold the opposite. Why do we hold the opposite? Because we go according to life right now. We don't go according to potential life. Yeah, that's the difference. Right? That's the difference. But again, within 40 days, not considered a life. After 40 days, we consider it a life. A person aborts it for no good reason. Yeah. In general, then that's murder. We hold that's murder. When did the Hebrew text with the vowels get put together? When it get, Torah scrolls, from the Second Temple period, they didn't have, full books. They had separate books. Let's say they wound them together. Book of Exodus, book of Leviticus, etc. So when exactly? What's the date? Good question. Let's see. Or say by the Second Temple. That's my that would be my guess. Let's see if I get an answer here. 1 second. The answer I was looking for. Let's see. Someone here mentions 9th century. Between the 6th and 10th centuries of the Common Era. Whatever, I have to look into it, but somewhere, I don't know, somewhere around there. 6th and 10th century. I thought it was later, but yeah, so yeah, so I guess we'll leave it at that. Between 6th and 10th century. Yeah, any other questions? All right. If there are no other questions, let's just see. All right. So no other questions. I'm gonna sign out. This every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, you can find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Orthodox Conversion, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics for our fathers, book of Leviticus. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wishing have a good beginning.